Alright, so today is Tuesday, which means a new Chainsaw Man chapter came out. However, yesterday, a new Dawn to Dawn chapter came out, and I was busy, so I couldn't talk about it. So there's going to be a bit of a double feature. However, I think the Chainsaw Man part of this video is going to be way longer because, oh my god, I have so much to talk about. So, in the last chapter of Dawn to Dawn, we got the guy getting a bunch of power stuffed into him. So now he's got Momo's power, he has Lord of the Flies, and he has the class president's abilities. And he's just becoming this big freak full of powers, essentially. And then it ends off on a conversation with Seko in the hospital with some folks. I don't quite remember who these little old people are, but I don't know. There's a panel in the new chapter where they're walking away, and just something about them seems ominous. And I know it's not them, but they seem subterranean in nature, but that can't be right because they're on the moon. They are talking to Seiko, and they establish, who these nobles are. And then we get a scene of Ken and Gigi and the girls in Okarone all going somewhere, and it turns out that Okarone has this power called Adventures of Pinocchio, because the naming scheme for Dawn to Dawn powers now seems to be very Bungo Stray Dogs. Don't talk to me about Bungo. I watched the first episode and then turned it off after I realized the main guy was just going to turn into a tiger the whole time. But that's the Dawn to Dawn chapter, essentially. There's other people who will talk about it in much deeper than I just did. But going on to the Chainsaw Man chapter, I literally had a moment of, wait, what the hell happened last time? And I remembered. He was trying to remember his catchphrase while also being attacked by Wayne from Hylix. But it starts off, and he wakes up in a field with a bird flying over his head, and Pochita's sitting on him. They have this conversation where Pochita's saying that their dream life together is over, and Denji says, well, that can't happen because I haven't had sex yet, I haven't kissed anybody, or my dream is still going, there's still more. In the middle of their conversation, Pochita turns into his big hero of hell Chainsaw Devil form and tells Denji that pretty much the happiest that you've been in your life has been suffering and fighting, and that he is a person who can only find heaven when he's in hell. After he says that, there's a panel of Pochita hugging Denji, and he just looks very sad and confused of just where he is, what's happening, what he's hearing Pochita say to him. And this panel really hurts to look at. And after that, Pochita reaches into himself and says that he's going to eat his own heart and create a world where he never existed, where Chainsaw Man never existed. And before he takes his final bite, he says, keep on dreaming. And oh wow, it does say to be continued now. Oh Jesus. And on the last page, we have the shed, the shack, if you will, where we all started in part 1. There are so many loose ends, but at the same time, part 2 has been going on for over 100 chapters, which Fujimoto does not like doing with his stories. He does not like going over 100 chapters. Inside me, there are two wolves. One of them thinks that Fujimoto is setting up the craziest universe reset that I've ever seen since Steel Ball Run, and the other wolf is saying that my goat is washed. Every time I think I've got it, every time I think I have this aha moment, I figured it out, Frank Reynolds, oh my god, I get it type shit, Fujimoto just reels back and punches me in the dick. And just the reaction that this man is able to invoke, just for me reading, 16 pages once every couple of weeks? That is why he's one of my favorite mangaka of all time. I'm so unbelievably hopped up off the copium, it's not even funny, because I feel like I'm getting fire punched, man. I don't know what to think anymore. Is this a reset in the sense that, like, even time is being rewound? Are we getting like a Made in Heaven type reset, or is it just a reset because we don't know which version of Denji is in that house? Is it just the fact that Pochita existed so that he never left that house? That's brutal. I mean, that's miserable. But part of me, and I'm gonna really stumble through trying to put this into words, but I think Part 3, if there is going to be a Chainsaw Man Part 3, which I think there should be, there's a lot of loose ends to tie up, I think it's going to be such an interesting third part, because the only other trilogies that I have to go off of are JoJo's, and the structure of those, I don't think would be quite the same as like a Chainsaw Man trilogy. So a little side tangent, a little left turn. The JoJo trilogies kind of go as follows. Of the first part is establishing the system and just kind of what it does. The second part is kind of background on where this thing came from, or just some, just lore elements for this system. And then the third part is the aftermath, or the consequences of that thing. So parts 1 through 3 is the stone mask, who made it, and the consequences of that, where Dio was able to live 100 years underwater and then come back and have a stand. Parts 4 through 6 are introducing the stand arrows, where they came from and how they got into Enya's possession, and the consequences of those arrows, making them obsolete with something like Whitesnake. And then parts 7 through 9, which, I mean, we don't even know, because 9 is still ongoing. 7 introduces the Devil's Palm. 8 kind of establishes rock humans, and that they live adjacent, or, around Devil's Palms most of the time. And then 9, I don't know, because it's still going on. But how I think a Chainsaw Man trilogy is going to pan out from the looks of it is Part 1, Chainsaw Man, establishing. You have Denji. He is in the lowest point of his entire life. It's just him and his little chainsaw dog friend. His chainsaw dog dies, but they make a contract where he shows him his dreams and lives out a normal life. Part 2 is that contract being broken in more ways than one, where instead of initially wanting to live a normal life, he instead goes full Spider-Man. He goes full superhero, and to his detriment, loses everything except becoming Chainsaw Man. And Pochita, this entire time, he's been conscious. Every time that the contract has been broken and he becomes Hero of Hell again, it has been him almost the entire time. And he's conscious enough in this last chapter to make the decision to cut him off, to say, you want a normal life, I think you deserve it, I'm going to erase myself. And part 3 is going to be that normal life, and we're going to see how Denji is going to fuck it up without Pochita. That's my theory. Man, oh man, I was really devastated for the first couple of hours after reading this new chapter, but I have so much hopium running through my veins I can't even see straight. This next chapter in a couple weeks is going to be, it's going to start the craziest reread of my life, and I probably won't even get it still, but I'm sorry that the Dandadan chapter kind of flew under the wayside. It was like the first maybe 2 minutes, but it seems like they're setting up for the next major arc going forward is this big nobles fight, and I imagine that also involves, you know, Saint Germain and all that. But like, you know, it's setting up for the next stuff. I'm excited. But man, this last chapter of part 2 is going to be crazy. Oh god, what else is coming up? Looking forward to new Gachi Akuda whenever that happens. I don't imagine a new Chojin X is going to happen anytime soon, because a new chapter for that like just came out, and Sui Ishida just kind of releases stuff whenever he wants. And new Jojo Lands chapter in about 6 to 8 days, and the first episode of part 7. So a lot to look forward to. But kill Tatsuki Fujimoto.